at Generator. So Jumpstart is a unique program that that Generator created in collaboration with LaunchVT. And the idea is that, as we all know, in Vermont, we're really, really good at coming up with ideas. And we know from Generator that we're really, really good at creating products, creating objects. We're really good at making things. Creating a successful business is not easy. It's really hard, and you really need to actually learn a specific set of skills, and you need to actually, have mentors and people with skill work with you. And the usual way people learn how to run a business is you crash and burn 3, and by the third one you're like, oh, I kind of got this, right? So the logic here is we want to give people the best opportunity they can. And so what we're going to do is give you all the skills that you would find after you crashed and burned 3 companies right up front, so you can go from there. In a couple minutes, I'm going to introduce John Antonucci, and he's going to explain how the program works in detail before we have our first speaker. But I want to go through a couple things first. But before I do anything else, I want to see... Is it working? So much better. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, though, is introduce Michelle Buswell from People's United Bank, who are our lead underwriter.
I'm very excited to be here representing People's United Bank and our partnership with Generator. We've supported Launch Vermont in their competition for many years, so it's great to see these 2 initiatives coming together. We have a long history in this community of supporting the growth of business. We're lucky to have a team in Vermont that has great longevity with the bank. This in turn means that, we at Peoples understand the importance of initiatives like this one to help businesses grow and thrive in our state. We take pride in the list of longtime clients we work with that have grown from startups to successful, sizable businesses in Vermont. Your success growing your business is important to all of us in growing our community and developing our strong economy. We're fortunate to be in a position to support initiatives like LaunchVT, Jumpstart, and BTV Ignite. I hope there's some customers in the room tonight, and if so, thank you. I wish you all the luck with Jumpstart, and I applaud the work that Generator is doing here. Thank you so much.
So, in addition to People's United Bank, I want to thank our other sponsors who, without their really generous support, we could never. This is a very ambitious undertaking, and it's been crucial to get their support. So I'd like to thank Davidson Hodgkins Associates. I would like to thank Merit and Merit Lawyers for Growth Companies, Fresh Tracks Capital, Middlebury College, M&E Designs, Center for Women and Enterprise Vermont, and BTV Ignite, and our media sponsor is RETA. So along with the lecture series that you guys are going to be following along with, and hopefully you'll be able to come to all 6 of our lecture series, and through that combination, you'll get a solid grounding in how to successfully launch a product and start a business. But while you're doing this, we actually have a cohort of folks who have a product idea, and they have presented that, and we had a selection committee choose from, we had 26 different applications, and it was a very, very difficult process. We could have probably done 3 cohorts at once. Very strong applications. So the first thing is I want to thank our selection committee, but I also want to say anybody who's in the audience who didn't make it in this first cohort, apply again, because we're going to have additional cohorts, and there were so many strong applicants, we're going to have no problem with filling those up. But our selection committee was John Antonucci from LaunchVT, Lee Boyer from Fresh Tracks Capital, and Matt Flago from M&E Design. I really want to thank them because it was a very difficult process. So now, before we start our lecture, I want to actually have each member of our cohort come up and give a quick pitch to you about who they are and what they're doing. And and you'll get an idea of the sort of products they're going to be working on. And as the lecture series goes on, you'll see their progress as they're working on prototypes and they're developing their market-ready product. So first, is Courtney Record here?
Yep, right here. Hey everyone, I'm Courtney Record, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the maker in residence here at the Generator several years ago, where I actually had this initial idea for what I'm working on now still. So several years later, I do have some prototypes that have been selling in market, but I make jewelry based on topographical data from the U.S. Geological Survey. So it's all place-based jewelry, and I've been making jewelry for many years, but I realized, and I do fabricate jewelry, and I teach jewelry making, but I realized that in order to be successful in the jewelry world, I needed something really specific and really unique, and also something that I didn't have to make one by one. So I decided that I wanted to do something that would be replicable, but also be meaningful. So everyone's got a connection to some place in the world, whether it's where you grew up, or where you got married, or where you went on vacation. And so my jewelry can allow you to take your place with you, and so that's what I do. Thanks.
Jake Bland, where's Jake?
Hi. Hello. Is that a sound? I'm usually pretty good with technology.
You can just speak up, and that'll record the recording.
My name is Jake Glenn. I restore and repair arcade machines and pinball. The archives, I used to work for Phil. I think I'm the only one in Vermont that's actually doing this non-stop. Last year I made a replica of Galaga, about 1/3 scale. I'm going down to 1/6 now. But basically, I like arcade games. I like gaming, so I'll be reaching out to get licensing with the big names like Atari, as well as indie developers to make customized hardware for this new resurgence of like retro and vintage video games. That's really just been taken off. So thank you to all our sponsors for this really unique and awesome opportunity, especially Generator, extended family here. So thank you all very, very much.
Lee Mormon.
Hello?
You can just use it for the audio.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. My name is Clay Moorman. I started Claymore Lighting just about 6 months ago, and after working for a few years, about 5 years in the LED commercial architectural business, I wanted to kind of parlay into a more decorative, artistic, sculptural side. So basically my work is a combination between LED technology and found wood and found objects that have in the natural world. So I'm kind of at the intersection of sculpture and design and lighting, and basically creating products that please people from a natural standpoint and also make their homes beautiful. Thank you.
And Cristine Harris.
Hi, I'm Cristine. I've been living and working in Burlington for about 10 years now. And in that time, I've straddled the nonprofit and the artistic communities here. I've been making spoke bracelets out of recycled bicycle spokes and selling them at the Burlington Artist Market. And then kicking back the revenue, expand this business and grow it and use different recycled materials and connect those materials to organizations doing good work in our community and in the country and potentially in the world. So using silverware, reclaimed wood, and rubber, other materials, and supporting, with a coin, ring, micro grant organization, with earrings made from spoons, a hunger relief organization. So really combining social good with recycling, but making really, really high quality products, and not just like hanging a tin can on a hearing hook and trying to sell it because it's recycled, that kind of thing. So I'm really excited to be here and to be around all these amazing machines and amazing people who know how to operate them. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
So this has been a collaboration from the start with LaunchVT and John Antonucci, who is actually the individual who wrote the curriculum and is really responsible for the format that we're in, that I think is unique, and I think it's going to be a really incredible learning experience. So I'm going to turn it over to John to talk about that curriculum and the way that we're going to be running this series, and then he's going to introduce our first speaker.
Hey everybody. So I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship at the Lake Champlain Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber is the organization that runs LaunchVT. They've been running it for about 6 years now. And we do a bunch of different programs. We do an annual pitch competition where we bring in 7 businesses, give them mentors, we give them prize money. We also connect them with other service providers and give them networking opportunities throughout the community. We run a pitch competition for college teams, college students who are actually running businesses at their schools. And we also run a seminar series, and recently we have been expanding into some other resources. We just launched a connector app where you can go and see all the organizations in the state of Vermont that support entrepreneurs. And then just out of nowhere, Chris and the awesome team of Generator approached us and said they were thinking about starting a program for makers. And it was such an awesome opportunity, a natural fit, that we just got started. And didn't really think too much about it, but we're really pumped about what it has developed into, and so awesome to see all of you here tonight. I do want to just give you guys like a little bit of info in case you are thinking about using this as a sort of a full curriculum, if you're planning on attending more than just tonight's event, or if you're just looking for resources in general. So we designed this for 2 reasons. We wanted to give people information, but then we also wanted to give them the space and time and access to content experts to work on their businesses however it's useful to them. And so that's what we have this first part, where tonight we're going to have an awesome speaker talk about target market, value proposition, and how to create a unique selling proposition. And then the cohort members will go in and have a workshop where they'll get one-on-one expert advice from Cristine. So if you guys are thinking about using this at all as a course, I want to tell you about 2 resources that are helpful, or I've found helpful for businesses who are getting started, depending on where you're at with your planning. The first is the Business Model Canvas. It's not new, it's been around forever. But I do recommend it. It's a great resource for you guys. You can download it for free. You can go check it out on the Generator website, or you can just Google Business Model Canvas. Stick it up on your wall, get sticky notes, and play around with it. They've got a great help resource that defines them, and they'll give you some information about that. The other tool is, if you go to launchvt.com, it's LaunchVT's website, go to the resources page, you'll see it's called the Launch Report. It's an executive summary. It's meant for you guys to be able to use it however you see fit. And so the cohort members will leave this program with a really polished presentation of their businesses. It's a 2-page summary, and it hits all the important aspects: their market, their team, their value proposition, the competitive analysis, all that. So if you're starting a business and you want to think about how you're going to go about making sure that you've got all your bases covered, check out the Launch Report, use it as you see fit, and feel free to use it to present your business for any other opportunities applying to programs, funding, or otherwise. Lastly, this program follows on in timing, and is designed for the LaunchVT annual competition, which starts up in April, and the application process for that is between February and March, mid-February, mid-March. So if you're looking for mentorship, if you're looking for capital, if you're looking for access to community resources, I definitely encourage you to think about applying to that program, and the Launch Report will definitely give you an opportunity to do that. So again, I just want to reiterate that it was an absolute pleasure to work with Chris and Generator, and we're so happy to have had this opportunity to work with the maker community. It's really an underserved community in terms of business resources, and so much creativity and awesome work is happening there. We're really excited to help people that are generating these wonderful prototypes and products really escalate their businesses and get out in the marketplace. All right, it's time for the intro. So we have here with us tonight Cristine Hammer. And Cristine runs a consulting company called Hammer Consulting Company. And she's been doing that since about 2009. She is, first of all, she's a maker. She got her start making wearable goods, doing silk screen printing and a bunch of other cool things, creating wearable art. And then she eventually started a marketing agency here in Burlington and grew the company from nothing to 15 employees. Ultimately, that company was sold. And then since 2009, she's been running a consulting company. She is the de facto expert on marketing, target market, value proposition, and all that. And it's a real privilege for us to have her here with us tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to her. So please give a warm welcome to Cristine Hammer.
Yikes. I hope I live up to all of the hype. But I have been involved in starting and running 3 businesses in the course of my lifetime. Is it working? Okay. So can everyone hear me? Okay. So in the course of my lifetime, I've been where you are. And actually, I'm kind of curious, how many people here already have a business? Okay. Kinda, maybe. Okay. We've got a lot to cover tonight, and if I had known today, or if I'd known then what I know today, my wearable arts business probably would still be going, and I might be a Zach Posen at this point, or some really highfalutin clothing designer, but I didn't know anything back then, and it's so wonderful to have programs like this to really help people get started. There is a lot to cover. Your head may feel like it's going to explode at the end of this. My advice is to just try to absorb and know that this is a journey. This isn't something you're going to come to, like your conclusions and the path that you really want to take all at once or tomorrow. It will take some time. So, because I do teach classes, and they are one of the sponsors. Am I too loud now? No, I've got to. Okay, I may have to. All right, just tell me if I start getting too loud, because I'm not used to being mic'd for a volume. But it's the Center for Women in Enterprise, and despite the title, the organization does serve both men and women. They have a full line of classes and help for developing businesses. It's no-cost business counseling and specialty counseling. I offer free 1-hour marketing consultations for people who come in and maybe need that type of advice. And it's also the host for the Veterans Business Outreach Center, and also provides help for women in procuring the WBENC certification, so that you can apply for certain corporate, it's a corporate certification and also government certification. So let's get started. So imagine, for those of you who are thinking about starting a business or maybe kind of have an idea for a business, you've got a dynamite idea. You love it, you're passionate about it. But will anyone else? Well, we're here to talk about thinking about who will buy it and why they will buy it from you. As small business people, we always start with a passion. I mean, we wouldn't do it. And running a small business is not easy. You're wearing a ton of hats. You've got to do a whole bunch of different things that you don't like to do. So it's not easy. So you're generally doing it because you're passionate about something. Tonight, what we're going to do is cover target market, unique selling proposition, and marketplace analysis. And in marketing speak, these are considered the 3 C's of marketing. It's a standard approach to marketing. So the main thing is, let's have fun. You guys have beer and pizza, so hopefully you're in a great mood. I'm going to try to get through this really quick so I can get some myself. But let's have fun, and don't worry if your head begins to feel like it's going to explode. It won't. So I do just want to say a couple of words about marketing and branding. And this is the definition of marketing that's provided by the American Marketing Association. It's long, and basically it's really what it means is that marketing is how you promote your business. It's not advertising, it's not a website, it's all of those things. It's the umbrella that covers any activity that you engage in to get your message out to the marketplace about whatever your product or service is. So does anyone here have a marketing plan, or has anyone here worked on a business model canvas? Ah, good for you.
Yeah, I actually have a business canvas book, and I'm on their website, and we work through it.
Perfect, okay. So if nothing else, I hope at the end of tonight that you begin to see the purpose for actually working on planning. It's sometimes the thing, oh God, I have it all here in my head. It sounds like too much work. I don't really want to do it. Trust me, it does pay off. I think of it as, I usually describe it to people as, you want to go to the beach, and you know the beach is over there, and you can get in your car and head in that direction, and maybe you'll make it to the beach, but you'll probably spend a lot of time and effort trying to get there. Or you can get in your car with a map or your GPS, and you'll get there much faster with a lot less wear and tear and not waste maybe quite so much money. So I hope for nothing else that you've realized the importance of actually doing some planning. So branding, I have a bias here. I work with a lot of companies that they should be doing well, and they have a website up, and they don't understand maybe why they're not doing as well as they hope. And I take a look at the website, and it's totally off-brand. Had a client who was an herbalist, and she mostly sold products for women, and her website looked like it could have been for a gym or for Axe. That teenage boy product, it was so off-brand, and there was such a disconnect. So I have a real bias about this. Michael Jagger is going to be talking in the series a little further on about the importance of branding, but I really want you to think about branding. And basically, even though they're like maybe long definitions, it's really the essence of your business. It's the takeaway that people have from your business. And it's you. Ben & Jerry's is a great example of branding. From the very beginning, when they started in the garage in Burlington, their brand was playful, fun, quirky, socially and environmentally responsible, premium. And if you think of those words, other than premium, they don't have anything to do with ice cream. But people have that feeling about Ben & Jerry's, and they have from the very, very beginning. So sometimes people say to me, "Oh yeah, but they're a big business. Of course they have their brand all set." Well, they did that from the very, very beginning, and they even they used the Vermont thing as a to kind of support their brand. Vermont has a cachet, and particularly when they were expanding outside of the state. So the brand is bigger than anything, and it's really the foundation of your business. So target audience, that's where it all begins. Maybe you can't see the tip, but down there, it's not everybody, unless you're Amazon. If you're Amazon, your target is everybody. But for most people, it's not. And with a small business, often we're so worried about not getting business that we think we have to get everybody. We're afraid that we might miss out on someone. But it's better to be targeted, again, because no one has all the resources to target everyone. So you want to use your resources carefully. You want to think about, is there more than one? And often there can be, particularly when you're growing your business. It may become more than one. You may want to triage. You may want to say, okay, I got to start with this primary target market, but then I really want to expand into others. So you want to categorize them. Are you business to consumer or business to business or both? We'll get into a target example later in which we'll kind of demonstrate how it might be both. You want to think about the needs, the wants, the demographics, characteristics of your target. What problem are you going to solve for them? Your target market should have at least 4 common characteristics. A particular need, enough money, that, if they don't have the money, then they're not necessarily your target, has decision-making power, and has access to your product or service. I worked with someone a few months ago who had an educational tool. It was a methodology to help teachers in the classroom. And when we were talking about her target market, she was talking about, oh, well, it's the teachers. And I posed to her that, well, maybe not. That may be like a tertiary market, but really school boards and superintendents are the ones who actually hold the purse strings. And since this was not going to be free, that she was going to have to really think about her approach to go to those people who are sometimes only thinking about, well, or maybe primarily thinking about money. Hopefully they're also thinking about education, but where money becomes a huge issue. So demographics, these are the nuts and bolts of a target market. And very simply, where's your customer located? Are you going to be dealing with just people locally? Or is your customer maybe in New York City? I was working with someone who made bridal gowns, and at her price point, she realized, as we were talking, that her demographic was really in the big cities. Her price point was probably too expensive for a lot of Vermonters. So that changed her focus in terms of where she was going to actually put her marketing efforts. How much education do they have? How much money do they have to spend? Are they the decision maker? Are they buying from your competitor? Good to know, because then you want to figure out maybe how you can lure them away. So these are the demographics, but we don't want to forget the psychographics. And psychographics, the definition is the study and classification of people according to their attitudes, aspirations, and other psychological criteria. Knowing the lifestyle of your target can help you determine how to market to them. But it can also help you maybe discover a need that you can provide. So think about, as you're thinking about your target, what might their lifestyle be? Do they like to travel? Are they the trendsetters, or do they follow trends? That can be very important to know. Bottom line, for your target, you want to know what their challenges are, what their needs are, what their pain points are. What problem do you solve? What need do you fill? That is the bottom line. And it's all about the customer. So this just kind of is a visual to kind of demonstrate that as we go through all of the things we're going to be talking about tonight, how you're going to gradually kind of hone in on who your target market is. And it doesn't mean that you have to exclude people, but you don't want to miss your target primarily. You may discover other markets as you go along, which is terrific, but you got to start somewhere. So, this visual is like total population down to the target market and the penetrated market, the market that maybe is already taken care of by someone else. But you want to keep honing in, and all of these considerations will help you do that. So some tips on identifying your target is think of your ideal client types. For anyone who's already in business, you already have an idea. You have a customer base. So think about them and think about maybe where else they are for you. If you don't have ideal customers, ask your friends what they think about your product or your service, and what they find attractive, what they think might be useful. Monitor social media. See what people are talking about. What are your business goals is something that comes along as you go along, and that's like, do you really want to be an Amazon, you know, or do you want to just have a nice little spot? Maybe, yeah, I talked to someone, I thought she really, really wanted to grow a business, and she really only wanted like 3 clients. She really only wanted a part-time business. Don't act on assumptions. Don't assume that your market is bigger than it is. Be honest. Again, as small business people, we sometimes, and also because we're so passionate about what we do, we often assume that there's a larger market for what we have than there really is. So, and monitor and evolve. One thing with all of this is that your planning is going to change, like all the time. Because as you change, as your life circumstances change, as your business changes, as the marketplace changes, it's all going to be changing all the time. So your business plan, your business model canvas is kind of a living thing. It's never going to be stagnant. You're never going to be at the end of it. It's always going to be evolving. So keep checking in with your early assumptions, your early plans, and modify them as things change for you. Really examine your strengths. Who could use what you do really, really well? So why is it important to figure out who your target market is? Well, getting to know your audience is the most important task that you face when developing a marketing plan or a business plan. The more you know and understand, the better you're going to be at fulfilling the needs of a target audience. And again, targeting a specific audience or market doesn't mean that you have to exclude people. Rather, it helps you target your resources, your marketing dollars and resources in a specific or several different directions. So, for example, like an interior design company could choose to market to homeowners between the ages of 35 and 65 with incomes of $150,000 plus. But to define the market further, the company could choose to only target to those interested in kitchen and bath remodeling and traditional styles. So you can make choices within even greater choices. You can go more niche or not. Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, said famously, "There's only one boss, the customer." So if you have no customers, you have a hobby, you don't have a business. So and we're all in business because we need to make money. So think about your customer. So just an example. Sophie owns Sophie's Scrumptious Cakes, cake shop based in Burlington. She's a small shop with 1 full-time employee. She uses premium products and offers gluten-free and all organic options. Her specialty is one-of-a-kind cakes. Each cake is custom designed by Sophie and baked in her shop. And she donates a percentage of each sale to the food shelf. So who do you think is Sophie's target? Anyone want to guess or make? What's that? Weddings.
Women in the Burlington area.
Women in the Burlington area. Gluten-free users or people who need gluten-free products. Yeah?
Probably people with higher income.
Higher income. Okay, those are all parts of her target audience. I hope you can kind of see how you can begin to speculate or how you can begin to think about target market. So Sophie's target is probably female because no sexism involved, but mostly women tend to buy nice-looking cakes. She's probably more educated, maybe professional, so she doesn't have the time to bake a fantastic-looking cake for herself. She may be into entertaining. She might watch HGTV, might be a fan of the Cake Boss. She likely has money to spend. Using premium ingredients is important to her. She might live in Shelburne, Charlotte. She might live in Waitsfield, Woodstock, maybe even Montreal. So it's not maybe just this Burlington area, even though she has a shop here. But she also, her client, her target market could also be corporate. A lot of companies have sales meetings, and they celebrate their great sales year, and they may want to have a cake to commemorate that, or an open house, or a new location. Her target might also be the hospitality industry. Hotels and conference centers may need an on-call baker to come in, again, for people who are having meetings or conferences in their locations. Another customer of hers could be wedding planners, not just brides, but wedding planners. A wedding planner who wants to add more value to his or her business by saying, oh, I've got a source for wedding cakes, a fabulous source for wedding cakes. You don't have to go look around. I'll set it all up for you. So you can see that by defining, I hope you can see, that by defining who, she can begin to see maybe how she needs to market. Because marketing to like a potential corporate client is going to be a little different than marketing to someone who might just walk in off the street to her shop. So part of this puzzle, because marketing is a puzzle, is the value proposition. And this is, once you have an idea of who your target is, and again, it may change and it may grow, you need to think about your value proposition. And it's what's in it for me, and the me being your customer. So you want to be able to answer that question for someone. Well, why should I pick you? So a simple method for getting to your UVP, or your unique value proposition, is what do I provide? Who is my audience? Why should they choose me? What tangible results can they get from me? So pay close attention. For those of you who already have customers, find out what it actually is that you do that provides that value to them. And your VP, your UVP, is simply who you are as a company. This is more your inside reality. So basically, it's really your value. What benefit can you possibly communicate to the world that you can, your problem that you can solve? Kind of getting hung up a little bit here in my words, but it's your value. I mean, basically, simply, it's your value. And a good USP, which we're going to talk about, is takes a solid UVP and puts it into language. So this is basically your value. And then we're going to talk about a USP, which is the articulation of your value. So this is the value proposition is something you're going to do on your own, and you're going to think about it. You're going to make a list of the benefits, the values that your product or your service provides, and then, and this is, again, kind of a representation for you. So, it's what your target, your best ideal customer really wants, what you do very well. We're going to talk about competitors later, but you're going to want to know what they're up to as well. And what competitors do that you do too, and then your sweet spot there is your value proposition that lives there. So again, hope your brain isn't ready to explode. These are all, some of this is like jargon and terms, but it really makes sense. Think about what you offer that someone wants. Why it's important is that this is the promise you're making to your customer. It's the benefit you offer. It's who you are offering it to. It answers, why should anyone care? Why should I do business with you? Why do I want whatever it is you have? And it establishes, even further, a foundation for your marketing and sales efforts. And then that brings you to your USP, which is your unique selling proposition. And this is the definition. Basically, the USP is your differentiator. And again, this is the articulation of your value proposition. So whatever you have discovered as your value, you articulate it in your USP. And you need to know what it is, because if you don't know how to articulate it to your target, they won't know. And they're not going to bother to find out. You need to make it very easy for your target audience to know exactly what you're doing. So just to step back one bit with the value proposition, you should be able to answer and complete these sentences for your value proposition. I want to buy this product or service because it will, ... And think of this is coming from your customer. The things I value most about this product or service are ... And this product or service is better than anyone else's because ... So if you can answer those questions in the shoes of your target audience, you will begin to see what your value proposition is. So the unique selling proposition, your USP, is just another building block in developing your marketing plan. Very few businesses are truly unique. A plumber, what makes one plumber different from the other? Well, that's the challenge. What makes a clothing store different from another clothing store? Again, that's the challenge. You need to be able to find something that makes you different. And if you don't have something that really makes you different, then think about what you could do that would make you different, because that's going to be what you're communicating to the world about me, I'm here, me. So the USP, again, is answering this essential question, why should a potential buyer buy from me? Why is it important? Well, because it helps define your company's position and purpose in the marketplace. We're all being bombarded constantly and daily with marketing messages. Inboxes are just filled with messages. Texts are coming along. Banner ads. I mean, we're being bombarded with messaging. You've got to break through the clutter of all that messaging and be very clear in what you want to say to your target market. It might help you also examine your potential competitive advantages. You might say, wow, you know what? I didn't really think about it, but this is what I do, or this is what I offer that maybe no one else really is, or wherever your target is, maybe they're not getting it. So, let's say your target audience is local. Well, maybe you can fulfill a need here that no one else is. It's really necessary for creating a very clear marketing message and articulating a specific benefit. So again, it's differentiation. What makes you different? And again, put yourself in your customer's shoes. Start by asking questions. If some of these sound repetitive or look repetitive, there's a reason for that, because all of this stuff is interconnected. You can't take like one piece and separate it out. It's all interconnected. You're always asking basically the same questions over and over again. And one of the things I'd like to advise, particularly small business owners and solopreneurs, is to have meetings with yourself. Institutionalize it. Put it in your calendar, whether it's once a week for 2 hours, every 2 weeks, once a month, whatever it is, where you're actually running your business instead of working for your business. Too often we're so busy trying to keep up with what we need to do that we don't take time to look at the big picture. So have a conversation with yourself periodically and say, okay, what am I doing right? What could I be doing? Why isn't that working very well? Whatever it is, deal with your financials, work on your business goals, whatever it is, but institutionalize a meeting with yourself. And if you have some of this stuff written down and you find that you've actually accomplished something, then you can pat yourself on the back. And as solopreneurs, small businesses, we need to every so often say, you know what, I'm doing a whole lot better than I thought. You know, I've really actually accomplished something, and give yourself a pat on the back. With your USP, remember, different is always better than better, but you still want to be better. All right? So these are different things that you might consider when you're developing your USP. These are all things that customers might be interested in. So it might be that you have, you know, a unique skill set. You might specialize in something that's so extreme that you have a little teeny niche market, and that's okay. You know, maybe you've got some product for some biological kind of experiment. Well, of course, you know, you won't be marketing that to the entire world. You'll be going after a small group of people, but there's somebody out there who may need it and want it. So that could be something. Outstanding outcomes, if you can demonstrate that whatever you have, if your product can save somebody money or make them 15% more efficient, and you can quantify that, that is something that a target market may want to know, that a customer may want to know. Originality, you know, there aren't that many things that are totally original, but you know, I never thought way back when that that I'd have a phone that wasn't attached to the wall. So you know, so there's still room for originality. Irresistible offers. Never make it just about price, because someone can always undercut you with price. But if price can be maybe part of it, then that's something that people are interested in. Social proof. You know, if you can get raves online, you can use that. So anyway, these are different things for you to consider when you're thinking about your USP. You know, maybe you've got awards, an impressive client base. So these are different things to think about. They're not limited to this, but just some ideas for you. So these are some famous examples. Now, these also are slogans. Your USP might become part of a slogan, but you should not be trying to come up with a clever slogan in thinking about your USP. But I just thought for fun, it might be interesting to take a look at some famous examples. So with Target, expect more, pay less. So okay, so they're saying that we're going to exceed your expectations, but you're not going to pay a ton for it. We have everything here, and that's why you can call us Target. Domino's Pizza. Well, okay, everyone loves to have hot pizza, and they're saying that they'll deliver it right to your door. Convenience, and in timely way, only 30 minutes, and if you don't get it by then, it's free. That's their guarantee. Southwest Airlines, they're not saying, oh, we're friendly, or we'll get you there on time. They're just saying we are the low-fare airline. Geico is saying we can save you money, and we'll do it in very little time. So it's very convenient for you. Shopify, theirs is a little bit longer, so it's not. They do have a shorter slogan, but I picked this out from their website. The e-commerce platform made for you, whether you sell online, on social media, in store, or even out of the trunk of your car, Shopify has you covered. So these are some famous examples, and again, don't think about making a slogan, but perhaps a slogan will grow out of your ESP exploration. We have a lot to cover, so if I'm talking really fast, I apologize. We will have time for questions at the end, so if you have questions, don't worry. So market analysis is basically the study of the 3 C's, but it's also taking a look at trends, where things are going. You always want to be taking a look ahead to see where perhaps you can be, what else you can do, what you can add on, how you can keep your business fresh and viable. So this is another key for an effective marketing plan. And market research, the definition is the action or activity of gathering information about consumers' needs and preferences. So they basically include three types of data. So I'm all about being frugal in business. So I'm always veering on the side of being cheap with some things if it makes sense. So I'm going to basically talk more about the first two because, again, as small businesses, we don't have large budgets, and we don't necessarily have to be spending money where we don't need to be. So with a primary resource is online. Just Google it. It's amazing what you can find by putting keywords in and then putting other keywords in and seeing where it takes you. If you have a business here and it's a local business, you can still check out to see what people are doing in California and how are they marketing in California, in New York, in Ohio, anywhere. It'll maybe help you get ideas of potential target markets that you hadn't thought of, about how you can get some hints about how large businesses are marketing. They've spent a ton of money on doing their marketing, so borrow. Take a look, use them as kind of an inspiration. But also there are government, the US Census Bureau has a bunch of information online. Everything from, how many people live in a certain place and what their income level is, to all kinds of facts. So it's a wonderful, wonderful resource. Trade associations, industry websites, competitor websites, like I say. You can go and find out what other people, are doing as not only to check out your competition perhaps, but also just to get ideas of what to do. Your secondary resource is look around you. Talk to people, ask people. Again, for those of you who already have customers, talk to them. You can do it in a formal way by putting together like a little survey monkey, but don't make it too long, and maybe offer somebody, like a free something, whatever it is, to answer your questions. But when I was starting my clothing business, I got a piece of advice from Nan Patrick, who owned a clothing store in town, and she said, people love to talk about themselves. So take a look at people who are where you want to be, other people who are making things, and ask them out for a drink or for a cup of coffee, and just let them talk about what they did, how they got to where they are. So I did. I talked to a jewelry maker. I talked to a potter, woodworker, and these were people that I looked at and saw as successful. I started off at craft fairs and I wanted to move my business and grow it differently. I didn't take all the advice that I got from some of these people, but I took what applied and what seemed to make sense for me. And again, it was inspirational and aspirational because, again, these people had been in the same position I had been, and I got some really, really great advice. So put together a survey or just start a conversation with someone. Tertiary is formal research. This is like focus groups, comparable studies, market research firms. It's expensive. And that's why if you go and check out your competitors, they've already paid for all that stuff. So you can be the beneficiary of it without having to spend the money on it. So these are some places for market research. One little last note for market research is that it's not a one-time thing. You want to continually do it. So you're never done in business. You never have your plan in place and that's it. It's going to change. Same thing with market research. Periodically, you want to go and check out and see what things are doing, or check in with your customers, and be prepared to accept the results. Sometimes someone has a product, and when they actually start looking around and doing research and talking to people, they find out no one really wants it. Or maybe other people think it's a good idea, but they won't pay for it. or they won't pay what someone needs to make for it. So that's the other, so be prepared to accept whatever results you find out there. It may be harsh, but better to know before you spend a ton of money. So your marketplace, this is where you are conducting business. So after your market research and think about your target market, you may find that your marketplace is in a different place. I talked about that woman who makes bridal gowns. She was certain that it was Vermont, but after really looking into things, she realized it was elsewhere. It was going to make her marketing different. It was going to make it a little more complicated, and she was basically at that point then, because she couldn't do it all herself, so she was at one point thinking about hiring someone to do sales and do trade shows. So, is it going to be local? Is it going to be regional? If you're maybe a psychotherapist, you may find that you would have to work 80 hours a week at a certain hourly rate in order to just pay your bills. Well, no one can do that. So you may want to think about something else that you can offer. Maybe you're going to become an expert, or you have an expertise in the field, and you're going to write a book, and you're going to be a public speaker at conferences and get paid that way, in addition to also seeing clients or patients. Underserved sections, again, as you look around, you may find out that there are some things that you could do that no one else is doing. Does your marketplace value your product or service? Are they going to pay you? Is there enough money to make? And if you've done your research, you should know the answers to these questions. So why is it important? Well, because it minimizes risk. You're not going to spend a ton of money and then end up with a product that no one's going to want to buy. It helps you identify sales opportunities that maybe you didn't even think of, and generally provides an overview of the marketplace. And also, again, trends. We never want to forget about trends. So when I talk about competitors, and they basically fall into direct, indirect, and future. So obviously the direct competitors are people who are doing pretty much, they might be doing exactly what you're doing, but they might be doing pretty similar things that you're doing. Indirect are businesses that are close, but it's not real, they're substitute products. And I have an example for you coming up. Future, these are businesses that aren't your competitor yet. So Amazon would fall into this, because Amazon wants to compete with everybody. Amazon wants to take over all business. So these are not yet maybe your competitors yet. If you're a brick and mortar, then you're kind of anchored to a certain spot, and then you may be more vulnerable to other competitors coming in the future. So an example is Sophie had the cake shop, and now Anne has a flower shop. And again, it's a small one-person shop specializing in unusual floral arrangements for the discerning customer. Now her direct competition is other flower shops, supermarkets. People can go in and buy cut flowers in supermarkets, farmers markets, and garden centers. So even for weddings, there are a lot of do-it-yourselfers who also might just go in the grocery store and buy a whole bunch of cut flowers. So that's her direct competition. Her indirect competition could be edible arrangements. I broke my leg 2 years ago and had to have surgery. A bunch of dogs ran into me, broke my leg. And two friends independently sent me edible arrangements. Bless you. So rather than sending me flowers or a card, I got a lot of fruit. So I had to do some fast eating, but it was a nice, oh, that was a dog? It wasn't a sneeze? Oops. I should have recognized that. And then future competition is Amazon, because Amazon will undoubtedly at some point get into selling everyone flowers, delivering flowers to the door. But it could be a new mall comes in with some other shops that sell flowers, and it could also be a new flower shop. So think about competitors, both direct and indirect. And I know that I've had some people who are like very kind of uneasy about thinking of competition. I'm not really competitive. I really don't want to compete with anyone. Well, it's a necessary evil if you feel that way. But your competitor could also become a potential target market. I ran the graphic design agency that I ran for 16 years. Sometimes we had too much work. And then we would hire freelancers to come in and help us out. So while the freelancers were, in some ways, our competitors, because they could actually do some of the work, perhaps, more inexpensively than we could, we ended up having a partnership. So sometimes you can look at your competitor that way. I met a wedding photographer, a couple of months ago, and she was part of a group of wedding photographers. They all happen to be women, but nonetheless, and they regularly referred each other to other potential customers. Sometimes they worked together for like a wedding was really big and they needed a hand. So they would actually work together. So your competitor can also be a potential partner. So also think about competitors that way. So this is these are the considerations. And I have weaknesses up here because that's what we really sometimes want to look for. If we're looking for gaps in the marketplace, we want to think about potential weaknesses that we can take advantage of. So, one big advantage these days for being a small business, both in marketing and in providing a service or a product, is that small businesses are more flexible. So these days, the playing field is a little more even in terms of marketing, where a small business can compete a little more easily with a very large company because of social media. So from a marketing standpoint, the playing field is a little more even. But also, if something changes in the marketplace, let's say a natural disaster comes up or a new trend comes along, small business can react to it much more quickly. So, is your competitor not serving someone that you could possibly serve? Do they have a poor reputation, or did they get caught, doing something that all of a sudden where their reputation suffers, and you're there with your, very crystal clean reputation? Or do they maybe lack credibility? And you can, again, in your marketing message, talk about your credibility. Are they not keeping up with trends? And you can. So again, if you've done your research, you should know the answers to some of these questions. So what does it all mean? Well, understanding your target audience, clarifying your value proposition, articulating your USP, and really examining the marketplace are the first critical steps. So this is step one. I hope you come to the other parts of the series, because these will also be adding onto the steps of being successful in business, because basically that is what we want. We want everyone to be successful in business. There's room for all of us here. In Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, when Alice got to a fork in the road, she asked the cat, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to," said the cat. "I don't care very much," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. "Well, it matters to me that you know which way you're going." So I hope you take everything that we talked about here tonight. I hope you take everything that comes up in subsequent workshops like this, and figure out which way you want to go. So some final thoughts. Working on your business is not a one-time event. It's a process. It goes on and on and on and on. And planning and thinking about what you're doing is really critical and really important. And you may have seen this quote before. A lot of people love to use it, but it may be trite and cliched, but that's why it's used, because it's really true. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So that's it. Any heads exploding? It's a lot to take in, but any questions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Will there be transcripts of this presentation I gave later?
I don't know.
Yes, RETN is filming it. It will be
Oh,
available
this-
online, and they're actually going to integrate the actual slides into the film. So you'll be able
That's
to
right.
go back.
That's why I'm mic'd up. I should have been able to answer that for you. Yes.
Curious on your thoughts. So, like, I knew with your example of the bakery bake shop. She started a bakery and then basically tried to find based on what she thought people required. Like, what are your thoughts on that compared to more like the startup approach to find the market and asking people?
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing everything.
So in your example with like the bake
Yeah.
shop, she basically, I know it's a fake example, but she basically had this, came up with like 6 or 7 different criteria of things that she wanted. Like she wanted to make organic, gluten-free cakes or whatever, and then tried to find a market for that. What's your thoughts on that compared to like what's usually considered a lean startup method of finding a market and then asking people?
Oh, I'm sorry. If I gave you the impression that she opened the shop and then thought about her target market, No. You absolutely have to think about your target market before you get too far into it. I started my clothing business, and I really had no clue as to who I really want to sell to, because I didn't know. I just I didn't. I had never been in business before. I didn't know anyone who had been in business before. It was before you could look things up. You had to go to the library and read things. So I didn't approach that business in a way that probably would guarantee success. I did pretty well with it, in spite of all that. But no, before Sophie actually even looked at rental space, she should have been looking at her target audience, and then decide that, yes, there is a market for this. Maybe she went online and went to the Census Bureau and found out, you know what, there's people, I'm going to open the shop in Burlington because it's central to a geographical location where people actually have an income level, and also would support the type of products that I offer, the gluten-free. And also, they're willing to maybe to pay a little bit more because she donates some of the money to a food shelf. But all that should be done before. Although, again, a lot of people start businesses and then they think of it after. But I'm hoping that you'll be thinking about that before. But the other thing with that example is that, okay, once she has the shop and she's appealing to that target, she may want to grow her business. She may find that, okay, I think I can maybe hire someone else, or she has that employee there that she's now maybe training in making cakes. And she wants to expand her business, and she wants to figure out, okay, well, where? Who else could I sell cakes to, or maybe other products? And that may also, she may also find that with this one employee, I didn't get into this, but while I'm thinking about it right now, she may think, well, with this one employee, I can actually maybe have a line of cakes that are unusual. They may not be one of a kind, but they may be unusual that I could sell to other bakery shops or to supermarkets. Or maybe I do cupcakes or something like that. So the idea is you start with one target market, and then as you think you may want to expand or go in a different direction. With my clothing business, I started selling at craft fairs. And it was tough. I had to anticipate what people would buy So I would have to go with, with a whole bunch of different things to sell and hope that I would sell everything. And I was anticipating ahead of time what designs people might be attracted to. So I always left and went home with a ton of inventory that didn't sell. In addition, sometimes at craft fairs, people treated it like a garage sale or a flea market, where they, can you sell this for this? And I made a conscious decision to switch my business and go into wholesale. And so I got a sales rep to rep my clothing around New England to boutiques. And what I found was that my wholesale price was 4 times higher than my retail price at a craft fair. So I was making a lot more money. I wasn't dealing with the hassle of dealing with the public. I had one sample line that the rep took around to all these boutiques. So people order, I'll take 5 of those, 3 of those, 10 of those. So I only invested in that particular sample line, and then people ordered from that. So I wasn't out the money for an inventory that wasn't selling because I was trying to figure out what people might want. It was much more lucrative for me. I was able to concentrate on designing instead of being out there selling. So that's an example where maybe you start in one direction and maybe you switch for whatever reason. Any other questions? Yes.
So you mentioned the U.S. Census as a good resource.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have other data sources that you recommend for it?
Well, again, actually, I'm trying to remember. Well, SBA. The SBA is another good online resource. SCORE is a good resource for templates and things. But do you have a business yet, or?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I want to start science toys, for instance.
Cool. Well, you might want to check out some. One thing might be to go to a toy expo, or I would go sometimes to trade shows, and not to have a booth or anything, but I would just go as an attendee, and I'd walk around and take a look at what other people were doing, and you meet people and you can get ideas. And so that might be, a place to do some market research. You don't necessarily want to sell to anybody at a trade, because they're there trying to sell. But you might find some people that you could put on your list for going after, and then make kind of a targeted thing. The toy industry, take a look at trends. And I'll tell you, I think that you're kind of on the cutting edge of a trend, because because I think that there's a huge interest on the part of parents, particularly with all the STEM stuff, to provide playful opportunities for their kids to learn. So, I think you probably have a great future for yourself. Yes.
Do you have any advice on how we can do studies to understand whether the product is actually going to sell, so we have an idea, right? And one of the items you mentioned, I know investors are usually interested in knowing and kind of have a confirmation whether the product is actually going to sell, so we're going to buy it. So, and obviously, you kind of need to know that before you dive in and invest into developing. So how can you know whether the product actually is going to sell?
You may not know for sure, but one way to start is doing maybe your own little kind of focus group. Maybe invite a friend and have that friend invite a friend and have them come to your house or wherever, maybe somewhere. We did this on our own at the graphic design agency that I ran, where we offered, we just got people It was for some snowboard designs that we were working on, and so we just kind of wandered around some of the sporting goods shops and invited people to come for an evening. And it wasn't a scientific kind of focus group, but we offered some beer and sandwiches, not pizza, but some beer and sandwiches, and we just ran through some of the designs that we were working on to get some feedback. So you might just start with that to begin to get an idea. That would be one way. That would be one way to start. I'd probably have to know a little bit more about your product to maybe give you a little bit more advice. But that would be one way. That wouldn't be too expensive. It might be very helpful. Yes?
If we have any kind of time-intensive legal stuff to sort through, like copyright, patent, that kind of stuff, do you recommend we do that concurrent to our market research or afterwards?
It depends. It depends. I mean, you could probably do. I don't know that you want to get to the expense of hiring a lawyer if you're not too far along. But so you may want to do some beginning research as you're developing your idea. But at some point that you probably want, before you get too far, is look into copyright stuff. We did some work, some packaging design for a beer company, and I won't mention who it was, but they were a local brewery, and we designed all these labels and came up with names for the different brews, and they never copyrighted any of them. So the names started showing up on the West Coast. So we then had to backtrack and go through all the copywriting criteria to protect just the packaging. So you may want to do a little bit of that initially. Sometimes you can barter for some services. Like if I don't know what you have, but you might be able to get some legal work for cheap or free by doing a little bit of a barter for someone. But again, you can do look at some of it online first. So it depends. I hate to be equivocal about it, but don't go too far without knowing. Some of what you do, like when I did my designs for my clothing, the mere act of creation is an inherent copyright. So depending on what you do, there may be an inherent copyright. However, if one little bit of it is changed by someone, then the copyright law doesn't protect you. So.
And by the way, we're actually going to have a whole session on copyright
Right.
and intellectual property later on in the session. We have time for one more question.
Here?
Any advice for people who do their market research and find out they're pioneers in the market?
Advice on people who do market research and find out they're pioneers in the market. Good for you. Go for it. That's fantastic. Again, I mentioned about the phone. I'm from the days where it was stuck to a wall. And the whole concept of being able to walk around with a phone that has all of your address book information and your notes and everything, who would have thought? So if you've got something that is truly unique, go for it. Good for you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thanks.